Hello and welcome to the Anatomy of a Realtor. I'm your host, Mike Seiler, and today I'm joined by special guest Ron O'Neill. He is a coach and a trainer with Leaders Edge training and also owner of AI Intelligence Solutions. And today is going to be a special day because we're going to be geeking out over AI and real estate. Guys,
Yep.
you're going to want to stick around to the end of this podcast because at the end, I'm going to ask the question, is AI going to annihilate the real estate agent? And I believe my friend Ron here is going to defend why it absolutely is not. And I'm going to take the slightly more controversial approach and I'm going to defend why it is. So something unique about Ron, he's been in AI before AI was even a thing. He was one of the testers of AI. And so I'm going to let him introduce himself a little bit about that, and then we'll just get into it. So, Ron, tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got started in AI.
One of the big things is I was just talking to Mike just a minute ago, how his energy, I've been doing so many podcasts over the last 4 years about artificial intelligence. He has so much energy coming onto this call this morning, which is absolutely awesome. I love it. And thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. So just a bit of a backstory. As Mike said, he's nerding out. I love artificial intelligence, and I was given the opportunity about 4 years ago. The opportunity was basically testing out, um, as we all know, ChatGPT. Back then, it was called the Playground, and from OpenAI. And I was just given the opportunity back in 2020, 4 years ago. And as you know, it was interesting when I first started in the test of the system out. It was. I'll be honest. It was biased. It hallucinated. It was terrible, right? And as I had the opportunity to test out in 2020 and 2021, it started to get better and better. And one of the big things you have to understand about this technology is that by 2022, it really, like the exponential curve of the quality of the outputs went from here, like it was just like this slow curve to here. Because in by September of 2022, I would ask it a question, or I would ask it to do, like as in real estate, I would ask it to do a newsletter or a blog or a script for me. And it basically went from a paragraph to two paragraphs to, 1,500 words to 2,000 words. And it was so accurate because I can basically narrow it down to whether it was, I want to talk about the real estate market in the Toronto market. I would talk about the real estate market in Owen Sound, and it was fairly accurate. It was really good accurate. And what ended up happening was, me and my colleagues that was testing the open AI system in October of 2022, we lost access to it. And as soon as we lost access to it,
You
we
knew
knew,
something was up.
Mike, you're exactly right. That there was something going on. And and by that time, I was working with other affiliate partners with, that was associated with OpenAI, and I was very fortunate, especially Jasper. Jasper.ai is one of the other companies, and as soon as we knew that we were losing access to it, that it was at the next level, right? And I was using Jasper.ai, I was using other programs that were using OpenAI technology, and it was amazing. Then November 30th, I'll never forget this, Mike. November 30th, on the evening of November 30th of 2022, I get this email saying, "Hey Ron, OpenAI has just released this thing called ChatGPT, which we didn't know, right? ChatGPT to the world and open source. And guess what? It's free, right?" And we were all freaking out, going, because you think about this, when you have this type of technology, do you open it up to the world for free? No. You usually you open it up to the world and you go to IBM, you go to Microsoft, you go to all these other companies and say, you're going to get this type of technology is going to be, uh, you know, X amount of dollars per year. But, it shocked us all. And then
Mhm.
before we know it, we all had access to it. And that's when Sam Altman, who's a co-founder of OpenAI, we had Elon Musk, we had Bill Gates, we had all these major players in the world going, all of a sudden going, holy, this is way better than we ever believed in. And they signed, they all signed, which is funny because Sam Altman's the co-founder of OpenAI. They all signed an agreement that they were going to pause AI for 6 months. But Mike, it was the genie was out of the bottle, and they knew if they were going to sign it, that United States and basically the Western world um, was going to be behind the other countries, the other AI experts in the world, and so they basically just said, you know what, we signed it. We told the world that this is pretty scary, and
Mhm.
but very incredibly innovative, and that's where we're at today.
Yeah, yeah. Do you think ChatGPT is not in certain countries, or are there other countries that have their own version of this? I'm out of the loop on that.
Yeah, so that's interesting. So it's so first of all, North Korea, China, it's not in those countries
Right.
for whatever reasons. Um, the Italy was actually for a first world country. Italy was one of those countries that put the blocks up to it, right? And I think after a couple months, they turned around and allowed ChatGPT to be allowed. But what it, even the CRTC here in Canada, they're blocking certain AI sites coming into Canada, and I don't want to discuss that, which sites they are, but there is certain sites that are being blocked, right?
Mhm.
But w- here's the thing, Mike, where I'm seeing the biggest issues with artificial intelligence is at the regulators, right? So there are certain regulators, so not so much the government, but the regulators in certain industries. Like I had I had dinner with one of the an educator last night who she's very influential in the education system here in Ontario. And I asked her, I said, so how are you guys addressing artificial intelligence? You know what she said? We're not. We're just closing our blind eyes to it. And she goes, we're not. We're not. We're just basically saying, don't use artificial intelligence. And the whole thing is that, it kind of goes back to the 1960s. And I know you and Mike were probably born in the 1970s or 80s or whatever the situation
81, yeah.
was. Yeah, and the whole thing is that back in the 1960s, did you know when the calculator came out that the education uh, systems across the world banned calculators?
Yeah, I don't
And
doubt it. Yeah.
yeah, and what was fascinating, 10 years later, fast forward it, guess what they did was they introduced the calculator, and that grade six student 10 years later went from was doing grade six math, went from a grade six math, and they moved to a grade nine math level because
Hmm.
of the calculator.
Yeah.
And this is what's really important to understand is that this technology is it's not going to inhibit us, and we can't be we have to be concerned about it. But what we have to do is we have to move forward with this type of technology.
Right.
And the whole thing is that unfortunately, as we know, we tend to react, and we're not proactive, we're
Yeah.
reactive
Yeah.
to this, right? So
Yeah, they just have to ask the question, like, what are you afraid of? Like, they're
yeah,
afraid that kids aren't going to use their own brain muscles, and so I mean, have a class that works on that part of the brain, and then carry on. Like, I mean, I firmly believe that we should be able to do some math, especially basic business math, in our heads, and
yeah,
it's a really good skill to have. And I frown on like teenagers and kids that don't just know, they don't know what 9 times 9 is. It's
yeah.
like that's important. Like it's a life skill, but we don't need to be able to do big, long, complex calculations
Oh,
if the tech is
100%.
there. And that goes with you should have a basic understanding of mathematics before you use a calculator. Same with coding. Like
Mhm.
I don't know anything about coding. I shouldn't be using AI to code because I just won't have the first clue on how to fix something or to troubleshoot. But a coder using AI, all of a sudden the world is his playground, right? So
Yeah, it's interesting, and I might go down the rabbit hole too deep here, Mike. But when you're talking about coding, which is interesting, when you're going into like ChatGPT or Perplexity, it actually, when you ask it a question, the whole thing is that every question you ask, it actually codes it out, like it's doing Python or HTML or a C++. It's actually coding what you're saying. And then it goes out and it asks the AI system, the language learning machine. So yeah, I always encourage people, if you actually want to see what actually happens when you're using this technology, just click on when it's thinking, click on where it's thinking, and especially in Perplexity and ChatGPT, you actually see the coding. And I'm like, holy
Oh,
crap!
nice.
You're looking at it going, it's actually doing this in
Yeah.
real time, right? So,
Uh,
and I'll be honest, the programmers out there are scared,
yeah.
because. But though, like you said, Mike, we still need programmers. We still need people to code the technology because you still have to have an understanding of it. It's not going to take those jobs away.
Hmm.
It might eliminate some,
Hmm.
but the reality is it's moving at such a quick rate these days.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, when I first got into real estate, it was October of 2013. I moved to the Grey Bruce, and it was just an almost an undeveloped area in terms of uh, just the way society moved on things. Like I would call a plumber, an electrician, whatever, and they would no one ever answered the phone. They were busy doing their plumbing and wiring and stuff. And then they would take like a few days to call back, and then when you finally get them on the phone, they're booked out for the next 2 weeks, and I say like, why don't you hire somebody, grow a company? Like there's so much opportunity here. And just before I got into real estate, I became a real estate photographer, and then I realized I couldn't squeeze enough money out of the real estate agents. So I became one, right? And I just using technology and marketing and everything was able to like really just fast track my career. I became a high level producer in my local area, and just listening to the older realtors is like, I don't need the internet and all those web forums and transaction desks. Is like when we wrote an offer, it was like two sides of the page, and what happens if they're like, and there's all this cautious, and so the same thing's about to happen, and I'm
Mhm.
experiencing it, and I'm loving it because I'm not quite old enough to be afraid of the tech and or to be naive on how it's going to help us. And so any opportunity I get, and I'm still way behind. I mean, there's going to be realtors out there, crushing AI and how it's really beneficial and stuff. But I'm excited to get into how realtors like in your observation right now, what are the number one top three kind of ways realtors are using AI today? And then let's get into like how they're going to be using it tomorrow and like in the near future.
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you, Mike, because you called me up and I went out to your brokerage. The number one thing you have to do is engage the people that know artificial intelligence. And one of the things I came out to Hanover a couple weeks ago and spoke to your brokerage. That's number one. That have a broker of record or owner of a company that is engaging these people because, and I'm not the only one. There's hundreds out there. That's number one. Number two, what you have to do is basically, you know, don't be scared of this technology. What you have to do is start learning this technology. And as I said to your brokerage, you're 98% there, guys. Like at the end of the day, if you know the English language, you're there. And number three, don't treat it like Google, because that's the big thing. It's not like Google. You can treat it like Google, you can ask it a question, but treat it like as if it's your assistant, you
Hmm.
know? And you think about this. And I know I do talk a lot about ChatGPT because I think it is the most powerful AI system out there today because it's funded by Microsoft at $29 billion, and they have plugins and they have their own AI tools out there. So the thing is that your best investment is investing into using and learning how to use artificial intelligence. So, and because I'm going to go beyond three. Okay, so number four, what you have to start to do is go on YouTube and start to pull up artificial intelligence every single week. And there's enough people that are doing news articles, news uh, videos every single week on what is happening within the artificial intelligence space. because remember, just going back to the 98%, all you have to do is treat it like your assistant and start learning the tools and start and it's dirt cheap, right? That like the cost of using this technology, like
Hmm.
if I can't imagine, like to give an example, OpenAI is losing $700,000 a day because we're using this technology,
Hmm.
right? And the reason why they're losing, but they're gaining because they're learning from us, right?
Oh,
It's a
no,
win-win.
no doubt, Ron. It is a
Mm,
cash cow.
yeah,
Just, I mean, in numbers that we can't even count. We can't count at that high. Like it's like it's just like Facebook when they came out and it was
Mhm.
seemingly free, and then they introduced the ads and
Yeah,
making money. Same thing. Like they're learning right now. They started to charge a little bit, but when whoever's hands it falls in, there's a lot
yeah.
of money.
Yeah, it is, and I just want to kind of run down this rabbit hole of the question you asked me. And number five, the whole thing is start learning how to prompt engineer. And prompt engineering is two words that are just two fancy words that basically say, how do I talk to it? Because if you don't know how to talk to it, it's garbage in, garbage out.
Hmm.
And there's more than enough information out there. In fact, out there how to prompt. And what I actually do now, when I go into ChatGPT or Perplexity or Bard or Bing, which all those AI systems, I said, I want you to create a prompt that's better than this prompt. And I put in quotations and I write it out, and it creates me a better prompt, you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
And number six, I'm just going to go on, Mike here. Learn how to build out your own chat GPT. So what I'm saying is learn how to build out your own AI systems. So as an example, because I know most of your listeners are real estate agents, and one of the biggest challenges, especially here in the province of Ontario, we've had to deal with Tressa, right? The confusion about Tressa, the challenges with Tressa. So what I did was you can for 22 bucks, $22 a month, I went into ChatGPT and basically you can go into an AI part. The part of their division is basically you can build out a Tressa AI system. And all I did was I took the Tressa bill, I took all the videos from Tressa, that the speakers from ARIA to the governing bodies. I took all the documents and I literally uploaded those documents into an AI system that was just strictly for Tressa. And guess what? I use it every single day because I ask the question. And don't get me wrong, the ARIA forms are changing every single day. It seems like, and the whole thing is I just go into it and I ask it questions. And it's like, what forms should I use for this? How should I approach the buyer's representation? And so it gives me the guidance, and I'll even ask it. I said, I want you to create a script that will be value added when I'm talking to my buyer, right?
Hmm.
And like the whole thing is that this is the single, like when I talk to businesses, and I talk to businesses about artificial intelligence every single day, this is the best investment we've ever gotten in our lives,
Hmm.
and that's AI. And guess what? The cost, it's like your best, it's like hiring a lawyer, it's like hiring a coach. It's like the best we've ever had in our lives at pennies on the dollar.
Hmm. So now, do you mean in ChatGPT when you can start a new window at the top left? There's the square and the pen. Like you would label that Tressa AI, whatever, and then upload the documents there. And then I believe there's also a search tool, but you just go
Yeah.
back into that kind of chat window when you're asking a question. Is that
Yeah.
what you mean?
So yeah, think of it this way. So when you go into ChatGPT, Perplexity, Bing, or Bard, right? So basically, when you go to ask it a question in general, you're basically asking the data sets they know, right?
Right.
So because basically what OpenAI or ChatGPT has done is basically it has been given like billions and billions of data sets or information. What we can do now is with OpenAI is basically build out an AI system for single things, like as an example, the trust bill. And another great example. I was down. I was speaking at home inspection conference 2 weeks ago. I'm not an expert at home inspections at all. So what I did was I literally took everything I could find on the internet that's not copyrighted. But and this is really important, Mike, is that you can't don't be using copyrighted material and building out these AI systems and monetizing it off because you
Right.
can monetize. So what I did was I took all the information I could find that was uncopyrighted about home inspections, and I literally uploaded it into ChatGPT in its own. It's in it. I called it Home Inspection Beta System. I titled it, and it's like a Word document, right?
Right.
And and then what I can do is now like yesterday I was presenting in Toronto, and literally I took pictures of a moldy attic, and I took a picture of a vertical crack in a basement, and I uploaded those photos, and I said I want you to create a home inspection report based upon these photos, and what are the safety issues, what are the remediation that you can do, and it created this full report, right? That's like 6 months ago. That's unimaginable
Hmm.
because this is like I nerd out on this stuff, Mike, but the reality to this, it's who would ever imagine it can actually look at a photo and create a home inspection report.
Crazy. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, I use it every day, and I use it just like you're saying as an assistant. I haven't done that, created that like my own module like that, and I'm
Hmm.
excited to do that with Tressa especially. And as a
Hmm.
broker of record, just like it's not cheating, like in the sense that we're not asking. I think it's a dangerous thing when we ask AI to create our response and we just send it out like that. I
Yeah,
mean, every real estate description now you can tell when it's AI because it's using words that nobody understands what they
yeah,
are. But to do the research and to create that module, I mean, it's just genius. And it'll cite the parts of the article, and then easily when an agent calls and you don't quite know where to find it, or you don't quite have the answer, just quickly ask the question. It says, here's the bulletin, here's the section, here's the answer, kind of thing, right? And
yeah.
yeah, super.
It's interesting because one of the challenges is, like, I'm just going to touch on Tressa, right? So one of the big challenges we have is when we have something rolling out within the real estate space, right? Whether it's slope or whether it's a new MLS system or whether it's a new rule and stuff. What happens sometimes is that, like, there's a lot of misinformation out there, especially in social media, and the whole thing is that people go on these tangents, and what even in my household, because my household, we have a real estate team, and one of the big challenges is that there was a question. I'm not going to, because I don't want to bring it up, but one of the things was that a lawyer, a famous lawyer out of Toronto, was saying you can't do this with a buyer's representation document. And I went into Tressa, asked it 5 different ways about this buyer's representation agreement, and every time it came back and said, yes, you can do that with it. But this lawyer said you can't do that with it. And I was like, and then 2 weeks ago, my brokerage finally came out and said, you know what? Yeah, you can do that with that, with
Mhm.
that, the buyer representation agreement. And, and the whole thing is that, but here's the key, Mike, and you said this, is that under the RICO Act, we have a fiduciary, and I'm just speaking here in the province of Ontario, we have a fiduciary duty and due diligence in what we do every single day. And this is what scares me. This is what bothers me, is because we're going to become over reliant on this technology, and
Totally.
because it's automated. And the whole thing is, at the end of the day, as I said to your team, um, last month, I said, don't become the poster child to an AI court case within real estate, because at the end of the day, you have to check every output that this creates, right? And this goes back to the two lawyers in New York State who last year in the summer of 2023 who produced six court documents and presented it to the judge in defense of their client. And the judge came back after looking at the court documents and going, where did you get these? And the two lawyers just said, well, ChatGPT produced them, so they must be true. And
Mhm.
the reality is it does hallucinate. And at the end of the day, don't, and they got fined. And the whole thing is that you do not want to be those lawyers. You do not want to be uh, in a situation where you're going into RICO court or in front of your board because you over relied on this technology. And at the end of the day, it's great. It's amazing technology. I love the technology, but be careful.
Yeah, yeah. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but my opinion on how AI is going to evolve and where it's at today, until AI becomes incorporated in much more of our physical lifestyle. So let's talk about smart homes and technology
Yeah.
and our TVs and all that. We're not going to really fully appreciate like the capacity of how it's going to not benefit us and just be incorporated in our lives largely, and it exists out there, and they're obviously doing lab training on this stuff, but for now like we're talking about really this like keyboard prompting, and it's an information sharing, and like it's all on the screen for the most part for the average consumer. uh,
Yeah.
but tomorrow's AI is going to like it's very smart. Like you can ask it about psychology and about like really just anything like science and health and everything. And yeah.
Think about it this way, think about if you were to get into your car today and you were to go into the emergency room at St. Michael's Hospital in Toronto, right? The the, the whole thing is AI is out there, right? You think about like I'm going to talk about St. Michael's Hospital because I think this is absolutely amazing with our medical system, and this is where the advancements in the good part of what we're going to see in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. What was interesting, the head of the emergency department at St. Michael's Hospital, which is a level 1 trauma emergency center, and what happened was most Canadians don't know this, and I know medical practitioners hate when I talk about this. But what are the three things that kill Canadians? Number one is obviously coronary. Number two is cancer. And number three is misdiagnosing, right? And um, in most emergency departments, when you walk in, 20% of the patients are being misdiagnosed. And I know practitioners hate when I say this, but that's the reality. But the head of St. Michael's Hospital in the emergency department has reduced their misdiagnosing from 20% down to 5%. And when we talk about like jumps in medical percentages, that's a 15% jump, which is huge, right?
Hmm.
And we're looking at what Elon Musk is doing with uh, his neuro linking with the brain and helping people with paralysis and stuff like that. There's the advancements of this technology in the next 2 to 3 years is going to be exponentially huge. Like it's going to be massive. And I was a commercial pilot when I was a young kid, right? So, and one of the things that I was always told by the companies I called volunteering for, because they didn't pay me very, very well, but that's another thing. But it was interesting. They always told me, whatever you do, do not tell the passengers that basically 98% of the flight is automated, right? You
Hmm.
know, and that still is true to today, right? And so what's important is automation has always been part of our lives, whether it's you're hitting cruise control in your car, or whether it's distancing yourself from the next vehicle in front of you. Automation is there, and but the thing is that artificial intelligence has now gone mainstream. It's not in your car, it's not on your plane, it's right on your computer now. It's right on your phone. And artificial intelligence is going to be the biggest game changer in all of our lives. It
Hmm.
took over 100 years for us to adopt the tractor. on farms, right? Which eliminated 80% of the jobs, right? But what did it do? Did it hurt our world? No. What it did was we produced more food, which allowed us to have, a bigger population in the world. And at the end of the day, this is going to be the biggest highly adopted technology that we've ever seen because it's going to exponentially help so many people, whether it's in our country, whether it's in a third world country. So this is, and as I was presenting to your team and your brokerage, within 2 months of OpenAI releasing ChatGPT 3.5, 100 million people have adopted it. And you look at their marketing and advertising dollars, right? It was zero
Mhm.
dollars. And like for me personally, I've been speaking for 24 years. And Mike, with my open AI, with my AI intelligence company, AI, artificial intelligence company, I've spent $0, and my business is absolutely exploding because people want this technology because they know it's going to improve their lives or their livelihoods.
Cool. You mentioned Neuralink. If the technology was available, I mean, they just released the Google, or no, sorry, the Apple.
All
Yeah, yeah. If the technology was available in 5 years from now for you to have the implant that would make you 10 times smarter and whatever else.
Yeah, it's because I have one of those systems right here,
Yeah.
and I use it in so many different ways. And the the whole thing is that we talk about the metaverse and we talk about NFTs and we talk about because it was interesting. Like I actually got a lot of pushback last year. I had companies saying, Ron, AI it's BS. It's not going to go anywhere. I got so much pushback, and they said, you know what, you're like it's just a fly in the pants. It's not going to go anywhere. And the reality now, we're here. We're with this technology, and I'm absolutely excited to have this opportunity to educate people. And Mike, you're one of those companies that just jumped on this, and very few companies have actually jumped on this early enough to understand how important it is, start to implement it. And as you said, I think you moved up from the city, right? From Toronto,
Yeah.
the GTA up to your small little town. And whether if it's an agent up in the Great Bruce area or Nunavut, or whether the agent in Toronto or wherever they are, the whole thing is this technology is going to advance agents and people in business more than ever before because we don't have to go to UBC or University of British Columbia. We don't have to go to University of Toronto to have this understanding. We just have to be able to prompt engineer how to ask the questions to help build our lives and build our businesses with
Yeah,
this.
yeah. You didn't answer the question, by the way.
I'm a politician.
I can ask it a different way. Ron, do you currently have the Neuralink installed?
No, no, no. And you know what it is that, and I just want to talk about Century 21 and Easter Seals. We support Easter Seals and the kids with disabilities, and Neuralink is going to be one of those things that, we're going to refocus, from uh, supporting Easter seals with chairs or walking abilities to basically implant, supporting them to getting these implants. So it's
Yeah,
going to be
yeah.
absolutely amazing.
Yeah, yeah. It is kind of neat. My mom is deaf, so I'm fluent in sign language. And when they came out with the cochlear ear implant, and it enabled all these kids and teenagers and adults to be able to hear for the first time. And there's some touching videos. Every time I watch those videos, I tear up because watching someone go from not being able to hear to like hearing their mom's voice for the first time is pretty cool. But what's interesting is that there's a deaf culture, and there's like my mom being part of that old deaf culture who grew up like in a very bad environment because the
Mm,
deaf culture went from being ostracized, being downgraded in the education system to getting to where it is today, where there's deaf schools and they've really come a long way. And then now you have the cochlear implants, and my mom's like, I don't know. There has to be an internal struggle here because she's like, you're going to eliminate all of the deaf people, and I'm not going to have any family, any friends anymore, kind of thing. And so yeah,
You know, and and I appreciate you for bringing that up because what it does that, right? Because you think about our Kids to Camp program within Easter Seals, and what happens is as soon as you're bringing something up I've never even thought about because Casey McKay, who's one of our Easter Seals ambassadors here in Ontario, because when we talk to the kids about going to the Kids to Camp, that is the biggest thing of their lives is that bringing together kids that have other disabilities, but the whole thing is that they don't look at their disability as a disability, they look at it as an ability, but it brings them together. So, Mike, this is actually very fascinating that you brought this up because I never even thought about that.
yeah, you raise the Neuralink for one of these kids, and all of a sudden they can walk out of camp and and then you know,
Not there the next year,
they're not
and
there the next year.
yeah,
Kind of weird, but I mean that's a good thing, right? Like if we can heal people and get people, the blind to see,
yeah,
it's I don't know how you could say something negative against that. It's kind of cool. So
yeah.
cool. So, yeah, I mean, let's just quickly talk about how real estate agents are like just really hands-on. How real estate agents are using it today. I mean, off the top of my head, we have certainly how I've used it. I've used it to do a lot of content writing, like building out websites and stuff like that. Obviously, the real estate description is a big one. Uh, you know, just to take that real estate description to one next level, how I teach it in my office, I say, you know what, like when most people do a CMA for a person when they're trying to win a listing, like that's the time to use AI because just through the phone call you're saying, oh, how many, you have 4 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, oh, you've redone the floors, great, and oh, brand new roof. And so you're jotting down this stuff and you're going to go to the house in 30 minutes, and you throw that in AI and it produces a 500 word description that just, and it doesn't have to be perfect because you've never seen the property before, but you're just like, hey, you know what, I put this together for you, read it over, and you're gonna be the only real estate agent that brought a CMA with a real estate description that's going to make the seller feel like, whoa, like they put in that work for me. So yeah, staging is another one, like staging photos and stuff. I don't feel like it's quite there yet, but like we still hire when we want to virtually stage photos, and the number one area where it's not there for me yet is it can't stage multiple angles with the same furniture. I mean, there's probably AI platforms that do that, but just giving a prompt, you'll say, stage it like this, and it's great. And you're like, you can't just tell it to move a chair over a little bit to the right, or if you want to switch the angle with the exact same furniture. So I'm waiting for it. As soon as it's there, I'm firing my Fiverr guys. They're gone.
You
Yesterday's
know,
news.
what's interesting. So, augmentation of photos. So, I always have to put this disclaimer in saying that make sure you follow your regulations with your board regarding to augmentation of photos. I, we're almost there yet. I get that question quite a bit about taking photos and augmenting photos because we had companies like Box Brownie, and I think Box Brownie is still around. I still think about it this way. So Box Brownie is a company that stages properties. So when I go into a vacant house and stuff like that, it basically I would hire Box Brownie. I'd take the photos with my professional and I'd send it down to them, and they would basically virtually stage it, right? And imagine this: 8 years ago, $49 a photo for each photo that was being staged. Today, it's 7 cents on the dollar to stage a property. Now, in regards to, so Mike, we're probably, I would say, 2 months away from uploading a photo before we put it on the MLS system. and the rug doesn't look right, or sorry, I shouldn't say rug because the rug is attached to the house. Let's say the couch is didn't look right. We're 2 months away where we basically just go into an AI system and say, move the couch 3 feet to the left.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And it moves it and it corrects it and it's there. I'm because I'm a beta tester, so I'm using certain types of technology like that. Here's another example. And right now, what we can do, we're still about 2 months away from this, is we can literally, when we have a listing, because sometimes even in the Grey Bruce area, we can have a listing not for 4 days, we can have it for 60 days, 90 days, 100 days, right? Seems like our market's like that, depending on what the price point is. So let's say, for example, we take a photo of a property. It's in July. Now it's October, it's snowing out, and we have to retake the photos because we don't want to present the photos that this has been sitting in the market. We can now go in, we're pretty close to it. We can prompt it and say, hey, take this summer scene of this outside of this property and make it a winter scene.
Mm-hmm.
And it will literally take the leaves off the trees and put snow in the front yard.
Mm-hmm.
We're that close.
Yeah.
So the visual aspect of for static images such as photos, by the end of this year, we can virtually do anything with those photos, right?
Mm-hmm.
And but disclaimer, make sure you follow the rules of your board
Yeah.
in regards to how to use this technology, because
Yeah.
remember, you cannot change the size of the house, the size of the yard type
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, and if you're going to use AI to prompt a response to an email, make sure you delete the prompt before you copy and paste the answer. Which we've gotten one. I have a realtor in my office, and he's just getting this reply that was clearly AI, very aggressive. So I mean, their prompt must have been just like, negotiate without any like just negotiate tough kind of thing, and it just wasn't nice. And then the second email, that you could see the prompt in there, or part of the prompt anyway. And so yeah, make sure you eliminate the prompt. um
That's funny.
cool. What else is kind of hot?
Well, what it is as Mark Zuckerberg said back in 2018, he said video is going to be the most engaging technology out there. We see that with TikTok, we see that with Instagram Reels, we see that with Facebook as well. So the whole thing is that so video is going to be the biggest thing because I was presenting in Toronto yesterday, and I was presenting even last night with around the dinner table. I'm such a nerd, but I was like geeking out because everybody was kind of nerds around the table, and I was showing my avatar, and I was literally showing how I was talking about real estate in the market and stuff like that. So a lot of people, because what happens a lot of times, Mike and I, we don't worry about the camera, but majority of people do. People, and I get it. Like I was scared to get in front of the camera for the first time, the second time, and the third time, and the hundredth time. But my avatar, I literally recorded myself last week in a suit, recorded myself for 2 minutes, and now it can talk like me,
Yeah, what
act like
program are
me.
you using to do that? Because there's certainly tech that I want to put into play.
Yeah, Hey Gen. It's called Hey Gen. There's two companies. There's multiple companies. So there's called Synthesia, but Hey Gen is the one that I'm using,
So
and
HEY.GEN or something.
so it's Heygen without the dot in between. Just Google it,
Okay.
and you'll get it.
Yeah.
And guys, it's the best investment in the world.
Yeah.
And the whole thing is that the
So,
whole
so it
joke.
learns your voice and everything, and then you can actually just give it a paragraph, and it'll sound
Yeah,
like you and look like that. To me, that's cool because I can I can formulate training and send it out. They're still my words. I still approve them, but it adds that third dimension or that dynamic where people don't need to read it. They can hear me say it. It's more engaging. Just makes sense.
yeah, and The thing is that's as soon as I put it out there about this HeyGen and Synthesia, um, training companies were reaching out to me because think about it this way. So not only once you after 2 minutes of watching you and listening to you, it creates the avatar, which is looks like me, sounds like me, but then I can then put it through Veed and other companies. I can actually put it into 120 different languages. So if you're advertising out there, you
Yeah.
can put it in for training companies. They love it because they're like, holy Ron, I can target this market, this market, this market. And the teacher that I was speaking to last night, and as you know, we have a lot of first generation Canadians coming into the country the last couple of years. The teachers are struggling because the kids don't know the English language. And now the teachers, because some of these teachers are teaching virtually, what they can do is they can actually put it into different languages such as Ukrainian, Hindi, and all this. So it's endless. Like Mike, I can't keep up anymore with this
I know.
technology. Like it's just
Yeah.
moving so fast.
And yet it's still not fast enough.
Mm.
I have my eyes set on certain things that it's still going to take time, and
Oh
that's
yeah,
okay too. We don't need to. It doesn't need to go faster than it is. Really.
yeah. And
Uh,
let's put it into this context, right? So when we when we compare it to vehicles, right, and AI, we're literally at the Model T Ford stage. It was over 100 years ago, but we're not even the Tesla stage.
I know.
And the whole
It,
thing is, can you imagine 2, 3 years from now?
yeah.
So
Yeah, think Matrix and stuff like that. Like we are going to enter into a future society with AI that today's people are going to like. It's just going to be different. Like it's going to blow our minds
yeah,
how advanced our world and everything is going to be, how interconnected and stuff. And in the wrong hands, that's not going to be pretty. But like you said, like there's so many advantages to it. We wouldn't.
mhm,
None of us would drop the internet. We use the internet for our phones to watching TV and research. We all use the internet and we all love it. And yet, it is still a very evil technology in
mhm,
the wrong hands. And and that's going to be the same with AI and the tractor. I mean, the tractor.
yeah,
There's something that happens when you get out there and you mow a field the hardcore way. It builds part of your character, and that's why the certain sectors of the Mennonite and Amish still don't use a tractor, except for
yeah.
yeah,
It's interesting. We talk about the evil of this technology because the first thing because when I talked about it 2, 3 years ago, the whole thing is as soon as I say artificial intelligence, we go to the Terminator, we go to the Skynet, we go to the evil part of this technology. And the simple reality to it is that that's up to the regulating bodies, right? Because remember, this is not my first podcast or getting in front of the camera and saying, and I'm screaming at my top of my lungs with regulatory bodies, right? With Korea, RICO, and ARIA and the boards and stuff, and that we have to open up this discussion. And it's people like you, Mike, that are engaging people like me that are basically educating about artificial intelligence. And that's what's really important. We have to have more people like you, Mike, in these regulatory areas, right? Because at the end of the day, let's not be reactive. Let's be proactive and really take advantage of this technology and eliminate these people that are going to use this technology in a bad way.
so we're getting close to the end of the podcast here, Ron. Thank you so much for joining me. And as promised, we're going to ask the question: is AI going to annihilate the real estate agent? And Ron, you're going to take the floor first, and you're a strong believer that it's not going to. Why do you not think so?
Well, I'm going to turn the question around. Can artificial intelligence get into a crawl space or an attic or even show a property? That's the big question. It can't. The reality is that as great as AI can be, the human element it cannot be eliminated in a transactional process because not only are we still have to deal with showing the property, but the emotion. And I know there's companies like Perplexity and Pi, and there's other companies out there that are really good on the emotional side of things. But the whole thing is that understanding, you know, the, the human element, the emotions, AI cannot do that as of today. Okay.
We're not talking about today, though,
uh,
Ron. We're
uh,
talking about tomorrow.
yeah, and the whole thing is that there's always a people-to-people connection, right? We talked about social media, we talked about the internet, and you know what's always fascinating to me is this, is that AI is a tool. That's it. That's all it is. It's a tool. It's not going to replace people to people connections. And it's just like you and I, we're talking today and we connected at the Century 21 conferences. Are people going to stop going to conferences? Are people stop going to go to meetings, stop going to doing things? No, the whole thing is that at the end of the day, we were primarily, we still want to connect as people, right? Do I want to buy a home through artificial intelligence? I wouldn't want to, not at all, right? Because I would like to work with a human to show me the property, sit me down, because can artificial intelligence tell me that if that's hardwood or if that's laminate? Can hardwood tell me that's quartz or whatever the type of tabletop? So the whole thing is that we won't be eliminated. We're still going to be through the transactional process. But here's the thing. If you look at 40, 50 years ago, when a consumer wants to buy a house, they would reach out to us 3, 4, 5 months earlier. Now, what does the consumer do? They don't reach out to us as that early. What they do is they go on the internet, right? And but our job as humans, what do we have to do? We have to be top of mind. So we connect through social media. We have to connect through different means. We have to reach out to them, do our pop buys, still connect with our humans. Because I will tell you right now, I love AI, but the whole thing is nothing beats a pop by, nothing beats picking up this damn phone, calling my client, and they're like, "Oh my God, how are you doing?" Right? And
Mhm.
but do I still use social media to check their Instagram or their Facebook to see, if they have grandkids or if they have a new dog or a cat or whatever the situation is? I still do that. It's just an advantageous tool that we're going to use in our lives, right?
Yeah.
So
All
I
right.
love it, and I love the question because you deserve to ask that question. And because I'm with Leaders Edge Training, I'm with my AI intelligence solutions because when you look at Leaders Edge Training, we talk about old school skills, right? Picking
Yeah.
up the phone, door knocking, connecting, the old school skills will always be out there, and AI is just going to amp that up because guess what? It's going to cost us less using this technology. It's going to connect us more than ever before.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Hey, thanks for your answer. Now, what is the name of the thing that Apple just released?
I don't know.
An
I have one of
Oculus
those.
or
The Oculus is a different company.
oh, okay.
I know that. So I think I know where you're going with this. So go ahead with the question.
Well, so just at church this past Sunday, my pastor actually put it on the screen and he said, what's happening with this new technology and what they're starting to do is even in the way they're promoting it is that they're saying, we don't need to be in person and anymore. We can be in a meeting. We can very much see people like you and I, like you're in Barrie, I'm in Owen Sound. We still have this, personal connection like we're meeting right now. My first question to you would be, and it's kind of a rhetorical question, you don't need to answer, but are we really experiencing full human connection right now? And the answer is we're not. Like it really we need to be in the same environment. I need to really be able to like see your body language and there's something more, right? But we're starting to be bred into this environment where this is the norm. Like Google Meets are very normal, and now I'm gonna be able to put this on, and it's gonna give me a really good representation. And while you're there, I'm gonna be watching a movie over here and seeing my stock market down here, and so I actually 5 minutes before this meeting, I actually jumped on ChatGPT. I gave it some of my ideas as to what this future utopian society is going to look like, where real estate agents are annihilated. And of course, it produced me with these chapters, and then I said, hey, can you just turn this into a first person argument so that I can just read it to Ron this morning. So I'm gonna just pull this up on my.
This is going to be good. I love this.
Okay, so in envisioning the future of real estate, I firmly believe that artificial intelligence will not just revolutionize, but fundamentally alter the industry, potentially rendering traditional real estate agents as obsolete. Imagine a world where our homes are intelligent ecosystems fully integrated with AI that adapts to our every need. These smart homes will feature advanced technologies from environments that change with our moods to embedded health sensors and energy systems that anticipate our consumption patterns. The level of comfort, safety, and sustainability that will be unparalleled. Moreover, AI's role as the ultimate matchmaker in real estate cannot be understated. With its deep understanding of our preferences, our lifestyles, and even aspirations gleaned from analyzing vast data pools, including our online behaviors and social interactions, AI will match us with homes that fit us perfectly. This level of personalization and efficiency surpasses anything a human agent could offer, leading to a market where people find their ideal homes faster and with fewer compromises. The way we value homes is also set to transform. A dynamic scoring system, considering not just size and location, but also integration of technology, adaptability, and sustainability features, will redefine property values. This nuanced valuation system reflects the changing priorities of a society increasingly focused on technology and environmental stewardship. Perhaps most radically, the concept of home ownership as we know it may evolve to a model of life leases. Facilitated by AI and blockchain technology, this shift means that the physical ownership of property becomes obsolete, replaced by digital contracts granting individuals the right to occupy and utilize a property for life. This could eliminate traditional real estate transactions, including the role of agents and lawyers, streamlining the process in a way previously unimaginable. However, this vision raises significant social, economic, and ethical questions. The promise of convenience and personalization comes with concerns about privacy, autonomy, and social equity. The notion of owning nothing and being happy challenges our traditional views on ownership and happiness in a society saturated with technology. In conclusion, the integration of AI into real estate heralds a future of efficiency, personalization, and potential societal transformation. While it presents an exciting array of possibilities, it also necessitates a careful consideration on the implications for privacy, equity, and the very fabric of our social contract. As we stand on the brink of this new era, it is clear that the role of traditional real estate agents and indeed the concept of home ownership itself may be radically transformed. And so AI didn't pick this up from me, but I just want to conclude
Wow.
by saying, like, when you consider condominiums, right? Like,
Yes.
I mean, there's a million of them in Toronto, right? I mean,
Yes.
actual physical units. And like
Yes.
when you think about condo, there's still condo real estate agents, but when you start to think about like cookie cutter models, and I think that's where I think AI is going to replace the agent, not in rural Ontario, not in our traditional house sense, but when you get into just a cookie cutter condo, and I believe that there will be a scoring system, and there's going to be so much AI tied into the home that you're basically going to say this home is worth this much, and it
Yes.
has this view, and it satisfies this need in you, and it's like, okay, I'll buy it, right? And I won't
Yes.
actually own it; it's just going to be a lease.
You know what? First of all, that statement is so utopian, right? Like it's amazing to hear that, right?
Yeah.
And I think what it comes down to, first of all, I would like to get your prompt on that. How did you prompt engineer that?
Well, some of it was my ideas first, right? So
Okay,
I just
yeah,
couldn't write that because I'm not that
yeah.
smart.
Yeah, so there's going to be the cookie cutter situations, but then just like what where your market is at, right? The house is 10 miles out or 10 kilometers outside of a city, and it was custom built, right? So you still need the human because right now our algorithms, and I'll go back to Zillow, right? You take a look at Zillow, and they had I think one of their buying programs where they bought thousands of homes, and their algorithm was out by percent or 2%. But at the end of the day, that related in millions and millions of dollars of loss related to that. And the whole thing is that that farmer that's a real estate agent that knows the area, and he knows the homes. He know who built the home. He knows the guy that poured the foundation and the quality of work. So there is going to be areas where AI is going to take over. No doubt. There's no doubt, right? In commercial situations, you're not going to see that. Condos for sure, where you basically, as you said, every unit is, 800 square feet, and the layout, there's only four different layouts, right? There's going to be situations like that, right? So, and that's where it goes back to the World Monetary Fund. I think they said 40% of all jobs are going to be augmented, right? My job has already been augmented because of artificial intelligence and because I've adopted this technology. And the reality to this is that the artificial intelligence is not going to replace you, but the agent or the other business down the street is going to replace you if you don't adopt this. Period. That's it.
100%.
That's
Yeah.
all. Right. So, and that's why people like you, Mike, in your brokerage is adopting this technology, bringing it to the forefront, and really bringing attention to it and saying, "Hey, look, let's start to adopt it and let's use it as a tool to build your business at the end
Mhm.
of the day and help our lives." Period. Right.
Yeah.
So I'm very like I always say this. I'm very fortunate to have friendships with you, like in your brokerage, Mike, because at the end of the day, there's like millions and millions of people out there, billions of people out there that aren't getting it. And when you see my presentation, they get it. And you call me up and say, "Hey, I want you to come down and see my broker, talk to my brokerage. Hey, I want you to go on this podcast." It's people like you that are in the forefront of this technology that are promoting it out. Um, and the whole thing is that you're not in a big market, Mike, but the whole thing is you understand the importance. It's going to affect these small towns and areas that you have your offices in.
Yeah. Yeah. The number of real estate agents will always be shrinking. At
Hmm.
least production level, the number of brokerages is 100% going to be shrinking, and it's going to be brokerages that just jump on the leading edge of what's changing in the market, and that's scary. It's scary for me. It's scary for most, but
Yeah,
there's no point turning a blind eye. You can't be an old timer just being like,
yeah,
I don't need it because it's
yeah.
it's
Well,
here.
think of it this way. Our real estate team, house to home team, that's a little bit of a plug for us. House to home team in Barrie, which we work all in Simcoe County. Think of it this
Let's
way.
just plug
Uh,
Century 21
yeah,
from
yeah.
Barrie to Grey Bruce.
Post,
Just
yeah,
Google Century 21 and you're going to find top real estate agents all across.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love my Century 21 family, and they were the first adopters. And actually, our Century 21 Canada conference last year was the first AI real estate conference, and I'm flying down to Las Vegas next month and talking in Century 21 at the global conference about artificial intelligence.
Nice.
But yeah, but the thing is that our house to home team last year in the worst real estate market ever recorded in the history in our area. It was our strongest year. Why? Because we were using AI,
Mhm.
but we still use the people to people technique, right?
Yeah.
We're still connecting with our people, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So good, Ron. Well, thank you so much for joining me. All of Ron's information will be in the description of this video. If you want Ron to come out and speak at one of your events, he's for hire, and I look forward to getting this uploaded to into the World Wide Web, and I'll send you the information. Thanks so much, Ron, and we'll talk to you guys later. Peace.
thanks, Mike.